Okay, well, thanks for the introduction, everybody. My name is Jason Archer, and I do run the Glastonbury Planetarium. I'll show you where I'm at and kind of introduce myself first. So let's see. Okay, you should see that's the planetarium here. You can learn more about us, glastonburyplanetarium.org. We are virtual at this point and have been for a year and a half-ish or so, but we we're doing virtual public programs now, kind of like what you're going to see here. And we'll be open to the public at some point. And again, in the future, when we were open to public, we do one or two public shows in the evening a month, something like that. We're basically there for students and field trips and whatnot, but we do public shows. Right now, these are via Facebook. Okay. So that's what I do during the day, or rather during the week. I started at a little bit of history on me, if you care. I started at the Children's Museum in West Hartford when it was the Science Center of Connecticut, and ran their planetarium there for 12 years. Then went to the Connecticut Science Center, then ended up at New England Air Museum, and now I'm here. In my spare time, on the weekends and in the evenings, I'm actually a flight instructor. I'm actually the chief flight instructor here in Great Barrington at Berkshire Aviation at Great Barrington Airport, where I do a lot of instruction in tailwheel airplanes and other things and whatnot. So I like to tell people I'm either in the sky, in the stars virtually, or off the planet for real. I don't like it on the ground. But anyways, that's just a brief little introduction on me. And anyway, so let me share my screen with you guys, another screen anyways. And give me one moment to switch over for you. And there will be a little bit of music coming through here. So you should see the title screen. I'm assuming you do.
We do, the Grand Tour.
Great. Yep. Cool. And let me just get some music set up here. That'll come through. If it's too loud, just let me know. So what I thought I'd do today, you guys requested the Grand Tour, and I did create a variety of programs to deal with this pandemic and whatnot. So I've been doing a fair amount of lecturing and whatnot. But what I thought I'd do is I'd show you this Grand Tour, which will just be kind of a tour through the universe, kind of a catch-all of what the planetarium system can do. And after that, because you guys are pretty smart, you guys know the universe and the sky pretty well. So I didn't want to get too technical with you, because that's not what I do. I'm an educator and storyteller and whatnot. And then after that, I think there'll be enough time, certainly take questions, but I'd also just show you a little bit about the behind the scenes, about how this thing works and all that stuff. I thought you might be interested in that as well. So what you're going to see here on the screen is what you would see if you came into the planetarium. Just it's on the screen, and we've got software, which is pretty great, that's allowed us to convert what you would see on a dome onto a flat screen. But everything you're going to see, 99% of it, is right from the planetarium system. And if you're curious about what this is and where this technology, maybe I can share that with you at the end. The company is Evans and Sutherland. It's a Digistar 6, and at this point, it's probably the most powerful planetarium system in the world. They have planetarium, their software and whatnot is throughout the world, and everything's digital. By the way, I did work at the, you guys meet at, you guys meeting at CCSU, is that correct? Or were?
Were is the operative word.
Yeah, I worked in that planetarium for a while too with Craig and whatnot. But anyways, we don't have star balls anymore. It's all digital, and that's what it is. So let's do that. Afterwards, let's say I'll take some questions. If there's something really burning in the middle of the presentation, I guess it's okay to speak up, and that's fine. So obviously, I'm not going to do a sky tour for you, but you can see some of the stars out there. And what we're going to do is we're just going to leave the Earth. And that's the great thing about this new digital technology here, is there we go. And I'm going to make the stars just a little bit brighter for you. Okay. So there you go. A great bird's eye view of, well, satellite view of the Earth anyways. So we're going to start from here. We're going to kind of fly out, show you some things in the solar system, and just basically show you what this technology can do and give you a nice kind of overview. And we're going to fly out to the very edge of what the planetarium's universe can provide and show you some of the data sets and whatnot we have here. But I thought I'd start just close to home and with the International Space Station. Doesn't seem to get a lot of press, a lot of attention lately because it's, old news, but it's certainly not. There's still a lot of great work being done on something that's been in operation for completed in 2011, and it's been continuously operated since November 2nd, 2020, or no, 2000 rather. It's been in continuous operation. And after the moon, as you guys know, the ISS is the second brightest object in our night sky, and whatnot. And I'm sure you guys have found it and seen it. So we can show that. We can show the not the International Space Station, the Hubble Space Telescope, which is soon to be eclipsed. Well, maybe not eclipsed is the right word, but complemented rather with the James Webb Telescope, now that that's up there. And we'll start pushing us deeper and deeper, our views deeper and deeper in the universe, deeper than the Hubble can do. But the Hubble's certainly not going away anytime soon. So you're seeing where these objects are right now, there they are. And where they're located, I'll turn on their orbits. So let's fly to the ISS and just take a look. So a little refresher on the ISS. It's about the size of a football field. There's 2 bathrooms on board, believe it or not. 6 spaceships can dock up to the ISS at one time. And the way we get down there is that the Russians and SpaceX and whatnot can get there. There's something like 200 plus individuals and 18 countries have visited, over 200 individuals and 18 countries have visited the International Space Station. And certainly there's a lot of great science and work still being done today. And something on the order of over 200 spacewalks have been carried out on the ISS since it's been put into space. Takes about 90 minutes traveling at 17,500 miles per hour to make one orbit around the Earth. You're traveling at 5 miles per second is another way to put it. So it makes about 16 orbits of Earth. You get through 16 or so sunrises and sunsets at any one time. I think the record for length of time spent on the International Space Station was Peggy Whitson. She spent a total time of 665 days on the International Space Station. So let's not forget about some of the great work that's being done there. But I want to start close to home and show you the cool visual that we can provide here of the International Space Station. And we'll fly out a little bit. So from this vantage point, the Earth plate seems pretty close. It's pretty familiar. And there doesn't seem like there's much out there. But as you guys probably know, there's quite a bit of activity. And since our journey into space began back in the 1950s-ish or so, thereabouts, we've really populated close Earth. And there are a lot of satellites out there, in short, and satellites varied in use, telecommunications, weather forecasting, military applications, scientific research, geophysics, and whatnot. There's about, right now, this is showing you about 2,200 satellites in orbit at this current time around the Earth. Most are this country, and then we've got Russia, China, and some other countries out there with their satellites too. Okay. Believe it or not, if this number is correct, of the US satellites that are out here, and this is a cool perspective, most of them are commercial. Think about that. Of course, then we have military and some civilian and governmental satellites and whatnot out there. But that's not all. It's pretty busy, right? There's a lot going out there, and I've kept the ISS and the Hubble Space Telescope to see what kind of debris they're kind of pushing through and whatnot. So for every active satellite, there are also inactive satellites, and those are shown in yellow here. Okay, getting a little bit more populated. There's, in effect, something on the order of 3,000 plus lumps of metal flying around the Earth at thousands of miles an hour, just doing absolutely nothing. Right? Those are shown in yellow. Let's add some orbital debris to it. Okay, That's in the white there. I'll slow down the rotation there. I don't want to make you all nauseous just yet anyways. These are pieces from spacecraft. You know, we've been launching stuff into space for more than 50 years, and most of the stuff has fallen back to Earth, but there's still a fair amount of debris that's left up there that hasn't returned. And of course, to keep astronauts safe, we're keeping track of all this stuff. NASA's keeping track of all this stuff, because even something as small as the size of, well, a grain of sand going super, super fast is going to be able to puncture a spacecraft and whatnot. And that would make for a bad day. So this is being tracked, but gives you an idea of the volume of the stuff out there. Of course, there's also rocket debris out there, intact or partial pieces of launch vehicles. Those are in the red. And then there's kind of, there we go. Oh, that compiles it too. Hold on a second. Don't even know my own data sets. Let me get rid of that. So there you go. Whoops. I just got rid of everything. There we go. Let me get rid of all that, pull that back for you. So that's quite populated. Let me pull us out a little bit and give you an idea of the extent of this material that's up there. When I show this to people in the planetarium, they're like, whoa, you know, you think of space as being very empty and void of much of anything, right? But in a very, very short time, we've put a lot of stuff up there, and it's still there, and it will stay there for quite some time, and it is a problem. It gives you an perspective as the impact we have on our environment. Our environment is not just the planet we live on, but what is surrounding our planet too. So the United States Space Surveillance Network is tracking this stuff. There's something like 15,000 pieces that are of a certain size that they're tracking. And then there's pieces that are smaller than that they're tracking. There could be millions of pieces out there that are being tracked that we have to keep an eye on, okay? And you can see some of this stuff extends pretty far out. Okay. So to give you an idea of distance anyways, let's turn on a distance scale here for you. And it will do kilometers because we like to, you know, be like the Europeans. And then we'll do light years. So from here, let's just travel out and give you kind of that big overarching perspective, the things that planetariums are really great at. Whoop. So a couple astronomical units out, we can look at, well, the inner solar system here, the rocky planets, and get a nice overview of those. And you know what distinguishes these from the gas planets is, well, they're made mostly of silicate rocks and metals, and they have a solid surface and whatnot. I know you guys know all that, while the outer planets are mostly hydrogen, helium, some water and whatnot composed of them out there. But again, mostly iron, silicate mantles and whatnot. And they have surface features and craters and canyons and mountains and volcanoes and similar structures and whatnot, depending on what kind of tectonic activity they have and the presence of water on them and if they have any erosion and whatnot. And all the terrestrial planets out here, they all have their secondary atmospheres. They don't have their primary atmospheres anymore. So we're dealing with our secondary atmosphere and not the original one we got here. Mercury, no moons, Venus, no moon, Earth, 1, and Mars, well, 2. Let's take a look at just a couple of these here to give you an idea of how we can do this. And again, with just a click of a button here, I'm able to program and fly out to any planet I want. Of course, I should stop the rotation. There you go. So we can check out Mars. A lot of exploration going on Mars. We've recently flown an aircraft on Mars. How cool is that? And it's likely Mars was once much wetter and much moister back in the day, millions of years ago. We can even simulate what we think how wet Mars was. But because Mars wasn't able to have enough gravity, it lost its water, it evaporated, it lost its atmosphere into space, and there's no water, we think, or very little water left on Mars, perhaps underground. We're finding evidence of that, but certainly not as wet as we think it once was. And Mars is in atmosphere now today, made mostly of carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and some argon gases and whatnot. To our eyes, the sky would be hazy. Let's get rid of that here. Whoop. Get rid of that. Back to Mars. There you go. Would be hazy. There is 4 seasons on Mars. The poles are covered in dry ice. We can show you that here. Kind of fly around. And like Mercury and whatnot, Mars's atmosphere super thin, has a hard time trapping heat from the sun. So temperatures can actually get to a comfortable 70 degrees in the summertime, but at night it will drop below 60 degrees or so, and even colder. So think of Mars as a cold, dry desert. And of course, we have massive dust storms that kind of overtake the planet and whatnot. So from here, we'll fly out just a little bit farther. And we can turn on the asteroids. So now we get to show not all of the asteroid, but a significant amount of the asteroids that are contained here within our solar system. Let me see if I can move time forward. We can actually show you the motion of each individual particle almost. That's pretty cool. So asteroids, sometimes called minor planets, rocky airless remnants left over from the formation of our solar system, some 4.6 or so billion years ago. The current asteroid count is something on the, whoops, I hate it when I do that. Sorry about that, guys. Hold on. There we go. Okay. The current asteroid count is something on the order of 800,000 or so. And most of it found, as you know, between Mars and Jupiter, and they range in size from Vesta, we're going to go to the largest at 3 or so hundred miles, to something less than 33 feet across or so. All right. And think about all these asteroids. If you were to combine all the mass of all the asteroids together, it would be less than that of the Earth's moon. And within the asteroid belt, we'll travel back in. It's funny, the kids in the planetarium, every time we fly through the asteroid belt, most of them have seen Empire Strikes Back, and I'm sure you have too, when you Millennium Falcons flying through the asteroid belt, or asteroids, and dodging them. And, we could go right through our asteroid belt and never ever see an asteroid. In fact, spacecraft do it all the time. So we have in our data set a lot of the major asteroids, as well as this one here, which was an asteroid, but is now no longer an asteroid and considered to be a dwarf planet. This is Ceres, the largest object in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. And it is the only dwarf planet located within the inner solar system. And it was originally thought to be an asteroid. It was discovered back in the 1800s. And it was the first dwarf planet actually to have a visit from a spacecraft. So whether you're by the whole dwarf planet and Pluto not being a planet, it is what it is. And here you go. It was reclassified in something like 2006. An asteroid, and actually this asteroid comprises something like 25% of the asteroid belt's total mass. Kind of puts in perspective of the size of these things. So there you go. Dwarf planet. Travel a little bit farther out from here. And again, we can come back to whatever objects you want. Again, I just want to give you an overview. We'll come back and we can, I can explore anything you want that I've got in the system we can go to. So now we're in the outer planets here, the jovial planets, or the gas giants, as the kids call them. Rather than thin atmospheres, they around relatively large rocky bodies. These have relatively small, dense cores surrounded by massive layers of gas, made mostly of hydrogen and helium. And these planets do not have solid surfaces. Okay, and while our planets, well, they're sort of spherical. The terrestrial planets are mostly spherical, not completely, but the Jovian planets are all slightly oblong. Because they rotate much faster than the terrestrial planets. Jupiter rotates, 10 hours? Takes about once to rotate 10 hours or so. Let's go take a look at one of these just to give you an idea of what it looks like here within the planetarium system. So here we are at Saturn. sixth planet from the sun, second largest in our solar system, adorned with these beautiful ringlets. And of course, not the only gas giant planet to have rings. All the gas giant planets we now know have rings thanks to the Voyager probes. But certainly the most impressive, as you guys, I'm certainly are well aware. And, you know, every time you guys show somebody Saturn through your telescope, they lose their mind, right? It's like a religious, spiritual experience for them. And I have the same, I've had the same experience too. But anyways, I wanted to show you and bring you in a little bit closer to show you, hopefully on your screen, kind of the detail that we're getting out of this here as we fly in just a little bit here with a click of a mouse, and I'll bring it in and hopefully, whoop, I can get it in the right position here, that you'll see that the system actually renders the rings as individual particles. Oh, come on. And I just got to get in the right spot. There you go. You can kind of see it there. Pretty impressive, huh? How it does that and the capability for it to do that. The technology's really come along the way since when I first started creating slides and whatnot, taking photographs and making them into slides. And there was something like, how many projectors did I have in the Gengers Planetarium? Like 26 or 30 slide projectors, all had to be choreographed and work together. Yeah, it was nuts, but this is so much better. Not necessarily easier, but much more impressive. So gives you an idea of the detail we're able to show here on Saturn. Okay. Whoop, a little rough there. And Saturn is currently overtaken, I think, unless more were discovered recently that I'm not paying attention to, which is quite possible. Jupiter, as Saturn is overtaken, Jupiter is the planet with the most moons. What is it? 82, I think, and Jupiter's now at 79, unless I've missed something. I rarely keep track of these numbers. I try to keep track of these numbers, but generally, anyway, sometimes I miss it. But there you go. We're able to show each of the moon's orbit and even its rotation as well, too, within the system. So from here, let's kind of travel out a little bit farther and get that nice overview of this solar system here, all the way out to, well, the dwarf planets. Eris, Haumea, Makemake, Pluto are all easily represented here. And we're able to show the dwarf planets too. And they all reside in an area that we call the Kuiper Belt, this vast, kind of mysterious, cold, dark area of our solar system. We've only just begun to explore it, but it certainly holds important clues to the origins of our solar system. And we think this is one of the larger structures within our solar system. And we're pretty certain that there are a lot of Pluto-like objects that exist here. So Pluto and Haumea and Makemake are certainly not the only ones. But one thing that's cool here, if I can get the perspective just right, is when you look at the orbit of these dwarf planets, Haumea, Makemake, and Pluto. Let's see if I can, let me turn off. Hold on a second. I should have done this before. So I think the planetarium, you know, one of the things I like about the planetarium is it just provides that unique perspective that you can't get anywhere else. So if I were to turn off the Kuiper Belt here and get an idea of the orbits of these objects, you can see that the 8 planets that we now consider planets all orbit pretty much within the same plane. And if you take a look at Pluto, you can see how inclined it is to the orbit of the other planets, as well as Haumea and Makemake. Good perspective on that layout there. So let's continue farther out. So we switched to light years in distance The system does measure things in light years, at least this particular way to do it, even though as a parsec is the way we actually measure things. Astronomers like to measure things, but I think light year gives people an idea of just how far away things, we're able to wrap our head around it. Anyways, this is the Oort cloud discovered by Jan Oort back in the 50s or so, thereabouts 60s. This large spherical cloud, it's got a radius of some 50,000 to 100,000 AUs surrounding the sun. You know, we're still gravitationally bound to our sun here with what we think are billions, perhaps trillions of comets, all gravitationally bound to our sun. And that's really kind of a powerful idea and a powerful visual that the gravitational influence of our sun is that far reaching. And a lot of people kind of don't have that perspective or idea, right? So our long period comets come from here. And this is a very unexplored area of our solar system, but we're still all still gravitationally bound to our sun. So here we are 2 light years away. And my system is rendering not all those trillions of dots, but a fair amount. I forget the number, but it certainly gives you the idea. So of course we can look at the constellation if you want. I can put up any constellation you want out there and travel and look at them from any place on the earth if I want. What I thought I'd do is, it's kind of neat to see that, you know, we see these constellations and we see them against the celestial sphere, which is kind of what we're looking at here. In fact, I can turn that on for you here. We can see all the stars and the constellations as they were pinned around the sphere that's surrounding the Earth. That's a good way for us to visualize the sky and its motion around us, and it helps with our perspective here from Earth. But certainly space is big and immense, and space is 3-dimensional, right? It looks 2-dimensional to us when we look at the night sky. It looks like we're looking into the edge of a sphere, but indeed, as you know, we're not. And one cool way to represent that and to show that is we kind of turn on the constellation lines, connect all those dots of those 88 official constellations we have, and we start to fly out. And you can just see all that break down. And as we get some, I just picked some arbitrary distance here where things kind of look funny, 80 light years away or so, crazy far, right? The familiar shapes and constellation shapes that we're familiar with, they just completely break down. So now that we're out here, let's kind of look at a layout of what else is out here. The database has a collection of, and I don't know how many I've got in here, but a fair amount of, now that we're hanging out among the stars, well, dwarf stars, we'll start with that. Or I'm sorry, brown dwarfs, I apologize. Brown dwarfs, they are stars and they accumulate stars, they accumulate material like a star, but not like a planet, okay? And they do condense kind of the same way from a gaseous cloud, and they are certainly of a higher mass than planets, and so have stronger gravity, and thus they hold on to their lighter elements like hydrogen and helium. So they're more effective than planets in that way, but they fail in becoming actual stars because they never collect enough material to begin normal stellar fusion. And so they don't become stars. So they're kind of in the middle between planets and stars. So we call them brown dwarfs. Okay. And I was trying to get the number for you. We think, astronomers think, that the bare minimum estimate for the number of brown dwarfs that are out there are perhaps 25 billion. And that's our galaxy alone. We think they're very common, but the problem is brown dwarfs are hard to detect. You know, they're frigid, they don't emit a lot of radiation, no light, whatnot. So because of that, it's hard to find them. but we're pretty sure there's an immense number of these objects out there. And I'm just showing you just a few of them right now. So while we're out among the stars here, kind of leads towards what everybody is kind of fascinated by, is this stuff. So here we are at the first exoplanet around a sun-like star that was discovered. This one is 51 Pegasi in the constellation of Pegasus. Its mass is about half that of Jupiter, but it's thought to have a diameter greater than Jupiter despite its small mass. And it actually orbits very closely to its parent star, about 4 days. And, you know, perspective is always good. Mercury takes, 88 days to orbit once. We're 365 days, right? So that's pretty crazy fast. Let me see if I can get the star in view there. It should be there somewhere. There it is. There's the parent star right there. So it's pretty close. And this planet, interestingly enough, is tidally locked to its star, much as our moon is tidally locked to the Earth. So it's always presenting the same face to it. And today we know this is what's known as a hot Jupiter. Okay. So now we're talking about exoplanets, or extrasolar planets. We'll travel out. So finding extrasolar planets, as you know, is really tough to do. We have a variety of techniques to do that. Mostly hard to find because, well, they're dim, they're tiny, they're far away, and that really ruins our chances of finding these things. And we really want to find these things. And for decades, astronomers, you know, like I said, had suspected that there were extrasolar planets out there, but it wasn't confirmed until, well, we found 51 Pegasi and some others. Each one of these green dots here represents, in my system anyways, an extrasolar planet. And you're going to see a little cluster out there of kind of a compact area. And you're going to think, well, they're all compact over there. Well, no, it's just the data that we have that was from the Kepler Space Telescope, happened to focus on that one particular area of the sky and, well, found a lot. Kind of an interesting perspective here. It's looking at this area of the sky right here towards actually Cygnus, and it found, well, quite a bit. You could take that number and transpose it over the whole sky to get a number, but I'll show you some current statistics. I think this is updated. My system should update this. There's the number of confirmed exoplanets. And what you're seeing is the types here. I'm sorry, it's a little small on your screen, but gas giant type, Newtonian-like, super Earth, terrestrial, and then unknown. I'd kind of like to live on a super Earth. I think that would be cool. Anyways, and how they were found. We have the transit method to find them. We have radial velocity. We have microlensing and actually imaging these things, which is pretty crazy to actually photograph these things, but that is happening. And there you go. So some 5,000 less thereabouts confirmed, and there's quite a bit more that are unconfirmed. And my system is showing, well, a lot of them. So let's go take a look at a couple more, or one more anyways, because the system will do it. So 40 light years away or so, there's 7 Earth-sized planets that closely orbit a faint star, and there you go. This is called TRAPPIST-1. We actually know a lot about this system, and all I'll say is the planets are so close together that you could stand on the surface of one and you might just see some of the neighboring planets hovering above. And these are all, I believe every one of them is an Earth-like planet. So imagine traveling here and looking up. How cool would that be? Looking up and seeing all those planets in one sky. So exoplanets, and the system certainly contains, I don't know how many exoplanets I have, but I do have programs where we fly to a lot of the exoplanets, kind of highlight them, and we'll zip around the digital universe here to the variety of hot Jupiters and super Earths and things like that, and some exoplanets that, are the consistency of styrofoam, and would float in a big bathtub. So where do these things come from? As you know, they come from nebula. Stars form in nebula. Planets come from here too. And we'll kind of back out just a little bit here. You can see the Milky Way there, but each one of those blue stop sign looking things out there, right? Those identify nebulae. And what you might notice is that the nebulae kind of fall within the plane of the Milky Way galaxy. And that just kind of makes sense because that's where most of the gas and dust exist, right? So we're showing a variety of these nebulae here, these interstellar gas clouds, okay? And each one of these gas clouds is hundreds of thousands to millions of solar masses of material in them. And these are where stars are being born, stellar nurseries, if you will. They're also called H2 region, hydrogen 2 regions. Well, hydrogen is the most prominent material in the universe, right? So you're leaving lots of young stars, lots of star formation. And these nebulae, where'd it go? Sorry. These nebulae exist in the space between the stars known as interstellar space. Okay. So let's go check out a couple of them. Now, I love the beautiful photographs. You guys are probably experts on astrophotography. I never could get into it and whatnot. So you're used to seeing things in 2 dimensions here. But here in the planetarium, we do things in 3 dimensions. So you'll probably recognize this one here. This is the Orion Nebula, M42. And here's a great 3D view of what we think its structure is like. And I've got a variety of what we call volumetric objects here that I'm able to show, not a lot of them, but a fair amount that kind of gives you an idea of the 3-dimensional nature and quality of these objects. Okay, so we're I think, 15,000 light years away. I think it's more technically 13,000 light years away, whatever, and it's several hundred light years across, right? And there's enough material in there for to form many tens of thousands of suns, and that's happening right now. This is probably next to the Rho-Ophiuchus cloud, one of the more heavily studied nebulae out there. Interesting fact I like to throw out about this is the Maya when they looked up at this area of the sky below Orion and they saw this area of the sky, they likened this area to the fire of creation, which I find it fascinating. They saw there and they thought this was an area of creation, not knowing they're actually looking at a part of our Milky Way where, yeah, things are being created, stars are being born. And within that, we found protoplanets and whatnot. So there you go. So while we're talking about these 3-dimensional objects, we'll travel to a couple others. See if you guys recognize what this is. What do you think this is? Maybe we'll take a question. Maybe we'll take an answer.
That wouldn't be the Pleiades, would it?
Yeah, this is the Pleiades. And it really, its shape really, yeah, it's crazy. Its shape really breaks down, right? So we see depending on how good our skies are and our eyesight and all that stuff, you see 5, 6 stars, right, that make up the basic. But, the Pleiades, one of the brighter clusters in the sky, contains some 3,000 stars lying at a distance of over 400 light years away. Okay. And, kind of like a school of fish, its members move together as a gravitationally bound swarm through space. And these are young stars. And whether the nebulae here that we're seeing around it was part of the star formations or they're moving through it, I don't know if they've answered that question yet, but that's what you're seeing. But from this perspective, it doesn't look like anything like we're used to in our night sky. Again, that all comes back to perspective. It'd be nice if the rest of the planet could figure that out too. But whatever, I'm not going to get philosophical or preachy. I probably will get preachy. I can't help it. Whatever. All right, so let's go to one more volumetric object. We've seen young stars and stars where stars form in these nebulae. This is, anybody know what this is?
Nope, cat's eye.
Nope, I do have that one in here.
Ah.
So what was that?
Well, we've had the Helix Scofford,
Nope.
Dumbbell, and well, it's certainly not
Summer Sky. Summer Sky.
ATS.
It's the ring.
ATS, Richard?
Crap.
It's the ring.
Where's
This
the
is
central
M57.
star?
Well, it's in there. Either I don't have it turned on, which is quite possible, or it's just not showing up, but there should be a central star there. But anyways, this is the Ring Nebulae, that beautiful, oh, you know what? Let's hold on one second, everybody. There it is.
Leading question I give.
There it is. I think I found it. Did I just turn it on or did I?
Yeah, I see it now.
Let me. Yep. Okay. I didn't have it turned on, so I need to add that to the presentation. So hold on a second. So yeah, there you go. There. Oh, and there's the. Oh no, I don't want that. Oh, you know what? That's the two-dimensional view, which is actually kind of neat. So here's our two-dimensional view of it, superimposed. It'll come up in a minute, right? That's what we normally see, but it actually is more of, you know, football shape. And there you go. Kind of fly around it here. The colors you're seeing here are just, I mean, obviously, as you know, these objects are colorized and whatnot to kind of reflect the nebula's chemical composition. Deep blue here represents helium, the light blue color. The inner ring is the glow of hydrogen and oxygen, and the reddish color of the outer ring is from nitrogen and sulfur. And I can show you later on a bunch of these, but it really kind of gives you an idea of how the star dies. You know, are there multiple stars up there and how they interact when one star died and the others affecting the creation of these planetary nebulae. So there's the Ring Nebula for you. So let's travel out now. Let's see how am I doing on time? Pretty good here. And just give you a little bit of a big perspective here as we fly out. And I admit this is a little bit cooler on the full dome, but you'll get the idea here as we fly out here. So from here, I'm turning back on those exoplanets there. The sun is obviously here, and we're looking out here. That's kind of the view. The Kepler Space Telescope looked out into the Milky Way, into our sky, to locate these exoplanets. And while not completely comprehensive of what's currently going on, it's a pretty good idea of where these things are found. You know, it's pretty close to home, relatively speaking. And again, I come back to perspective. So we've explored a relatively small region of our Milky Way. So we've shown you some open clusters and planetary nebulae, and didn't show you some supernova remnants and things like that. But let's add some of this stuff to give you an idea of what we know about the layout and how we're able to represent this for you. So here we go. These star-like shapes are not stars. These are open clusters. And open clusters, you can see, are generally found in and between the spiral arms of the Milky Way there. And obviously these are of great interest to astronomers because the stars in them all formed at approximately the same time. And something on the order of 1100 or so, don't quote me on all these numbers completely because there's a lot of numbers in my brain and, well, I flip them all the time, but I think that's right, have been discovered within the Milky Way or thought to exist. So there's open clusters. We'll transition over to those guys. These are planetary nebulae. There's about 3,000 of these or so that exist in our galaxy out of what, 200, 400 billion stars within our Milky Way galaxy. And they too are found mostly near the plane of our Milky Way. With the greatest concentration, you kind of see a concentration as we get towards our galactic center. Here we go. The yellow circles, these are still supernova remnants. Some 300 known, I'm not showing 300, but some 300 known supernova remnants exist, each made from debris of exploding stars mixed with interstellar material, kind of swept up in the blast. And what, we're due for another supernova at some point, aren't we? In the next 100,000 years or something like that. That would be super. That's the extent of my humor. What else can we show you here? Pulsars. Wow. Well, there's a lot of pulsars. That makes sense given what pulsars are. Rapidly rotating neutron stars, super dense neutron stars emitting a beam of radiation from, a couple hot spots on the surface. And if we're in that right line of sight, we able to see them. They rotate exceedingly fast and very precisely, so precisely that they coined the term little green men back in the day. And they knew they weren't aliens or anything like that, but it was that precise. Anyways, a couple thousand pulsars are being represented here. And there should be these are just rotating neutron stars. So perhaps there's a billion neutron stars in our Milky Way galaxy. Why we use purple triangles, I don't know, but that's what we do. Back to star forming regions here, a little bit harder to see, but you're going to see some blue here, and you can kind of see that obviously these star forming regions are within the spiral arms of our Milky Way there. And I'll kind of, there's some right there.
How about globular clusters?
Yep. Right with you. Here we go. There you go. There's your globulars. Okay. So these orbit mostly within the halo of our galaxy here. And let me see if I can back us away. Why is it not allowing me? Well, technology. I'll back away momentarily. Halo of our galaxy, centered on the galaxy center, above and below. And while open clusters tend to orbit within the disk, and these globular clusters contain tens of thousands of stars, older stars, and whatnot, and can contain millions of stars, right? And that's there's some 150 or so known globular clusters within the Milky Way, and the halo of the Milky Way, which we'll take a look in a minute. So, here we go. Here, back out a little bit, but of course I'm getting rid of the globular clusters. So this is another volumetric image of the galaxy, or at least the way we're showing it. The best our idea is, what we think our galaxy actually looks like, a spiral galaxy here. It's got a nucleus, a central bulge, a disk, spiral arms, spherical halo, and whatnot. So let's kind of show you the sun's location and all that. There's the sun's location, about 27,000 or so light years from the center, where we know there's a supermassive black hole, right? There we go. So we're about halfway from the center here out to the very edge. And the sun even has an orbit, which I don't think people think about, that we're in motion with the disk here, and the whole solar system itself is in motion around the galaxy, or rotating with the galaxy, however you want to think about it, right? Roughly circular path if, we're looking down from above. And that path, right, takes 230 million years or so to complete. I think the last time we're in this position of the Milky Way, the dinosaurs roamed the Earth. Maybe we're going to go back to that. I don't know. But we can represent that there too. But it's kind of cool to see. And this, I actually just kind of found this within my system here, is to look at Barnard's star. And if you don't know what that is, Barnard's star is sometimes called the runaway star, because it holds a speed record of sorts as the fastest moving star in our sky. So it moves fast with respect to the other stars just because it's really relatively close, being only 6 light years away or so. So what does fast mean? Barnard's star is nearby. It's also not moving with the general stream of other stars around the Milky Way. We're able to kind of represent that orbit here of what we think it does. What am I doing next? Oh, I think I'm highlighting the galactic bar here. Which doesn't come through very well. So let's kind of move on from there, but it should be highlighting the galactic bulge here. It kind of represents there. And there's actually, around the galactic bulge, there's a dense spherical swarm of stars that are found around the bulge there. and stars kind of orbiting in a kind of a completely random fashion here. And this is by no means a comprehensive list, but just kind of gives you an idea of what we're able to show here. And we're not the only galaxy with these spherical halo of stars, if you will. So if we come out a little bit more here, kind of represent the scope of that spherical halo. And actually, let's move beyond that. So here, kind of a nice little look at our galaxy, but we can even travel farther out. So let's do that. So when they say digital universe, that's what we're going to show here. And this data set, most of the data set I'm showing you here is comes from the Rose Center in New York City, called the Digital Universe. Don't tell them I'm doing it. I don't think they want it shown via this method, but whatever. So here we're able to look at kind of the big structure layout of the universe. And here we're looking at the local group of galaxies, what the Milky Way is part of. We've kind of bounded it by a box. There's 30 galaxies or so that are considered to be part of the local group, spread over a diameter of something like 10 million light years. Okay, and the center of that is somewhere between the Milky Way and M31. Interestingly enough, M31 and the Milky Way, we're going to collide in a bunch of billions of years, become a new galaxy called Milkomedia. Galaxies too are in motion and do collide. But the Milky Way is one of the more massive galaxies, if not the most massive galaxy within the local group. So things group together. We're going to fly out here and show you each green dot representing another galaxy here. The Virgo cluster, containing 13 to 2,000 member galaxy, all connected together by mutual gravity. Think about a mass of something on 1.2 trillion times the mass of the sun, if that number even makes any sense to you. The total volume of space here we're thinking about is 15 million light years across. And its name comes from these galaxies are in the Virgo cluster, are mostly located within the constellation of Virgo, okay? And one of the larger members out here is M87, that giant elliptical where we first imaged a black hole, which I'm sure you guys heard about and saw. So the total mass of this cluster is large enough that its gravity pulls nearby groups of galaxies towards it, including the local group. So let's kind of travel out a little bit more. So the Virgo cluster is one member of an even larger cluster called the Virgo supercluster, also located in constellation of Virgo and thought to have like a member million galaxies and span an area of space 110 million light years in size. And these superclusters are some of the largest clusters in the universe, and they're thought to be millions of them across the entire universe. And you know, these large scales, these superclusters are kind of stretched out into what look like long filaments with large voids between them. And I think you'll see that. You should see that as we kind of move out. One thing the system will show, though, is galaxies don't come in all shapes and sizes. So here what we call bright galaxies. And my system here is able to show some 23,000 galaxies and the respective morphological type. Okay, it's after 8 o'clock. I'm actually surprised I could actually say that word, morphological. But there you go. Okay. We'll travel even farther out here. And what lies beyond the local group, the local supercluster? Now, I heard of the Great Attractor. There it is right there. We think this is the center of what is now called the Laniakea Laniakea, sorry if I pronounced that correctly, supercluster, and that's Hawaiian for open skies or immense heaven. And this is a supercluster. Anything within its boundaries is being pulled towards it, and whatever lies outside those boundaries is being moved away. So there's a great attractor there. And Virgo supercluster over there. So, whoa. And you're seeing some of the filaments and structure here. Well, let's just kind of travel a little bit farther out. Now that we're this far out, I can turn on quasars, which there's a lot of those. In fact, I'm going to get rid of those because it doesn't look that well. So there we go. And this should highlight itself. There we go. And this is an impressive image. You know, all in all, how many galaxies do we estimate are in the universe? Billions and billions? No, lots. What's a number I've read? 100 billion galaxies, maybe 200 billion galaxies. You know, who knows, right? This void here is not that there's nothing missing. That's you're looking at kind of the plane of our Milky Way here, which we just can't punch through and see very well to kind of visualize what's there. But it does give you an idea of kind of the overall layout of the Milky Way here, or the galaxy rather, sorry. Let me see if I can, my system's being stupid. Well, it'll bring us back in. So here we are out at the edge of everything. And what I'll do is I'll bring us back in momentarily here. So quite a perspective when you look at, you know, the Earth, that pale blue dot out here from this distance away. And yeah, why not bring the Enterprise in it? We can have fun here in the planetarium and show all kinds of things. So there you go. There should be sound with that. I don't know where it is, but pretty neat. So let me bring you back in. And to do that, we'll kind of fly back in with the Enterprise here. Get rid of that. Oh, early TIE fighters have arrived as well. And how dare I mix Star Wars and Star Trek together? It's some sort of science fiction sacrilege or something like that. But anyways, let's see, turn on the Earth Sun. So, you know, if I were, you know, sometimes I get preachy during shows and whatnot, and I think planetariums as well as flying too offers a great perspective on our place within the universe. And we really are, when you see this perspective out here, we are small, insignificant, and there's an immense universe out there. And I find it funny that we continue to fight over pieces of land and things like that, and resources which are super limited. But you know, a lot of people unfortunately don't have this perspective, but perhaps we can use planetariums and astronomy. And they used to be back in the day when aviation was the new thing. They thought aviation was going to change people's perspective and stop wars. And indeed, when they were trying to get, you know, in the 1920s and 30s, when rockets and traveling to space was this fantasy, they were hoping it would do the same. That would do the same and propel us to peace and harmony on the planet. Well, we have yet to see that, but I'm still hopeful. But let's go back in here and we'll kind of travel back in through our digital universe here. And back home we come, and apparently I left all my satellites on. So let me get rid of those. So the last thing I'll show you really quickly is just to, because I know you guys are probably technologically like the technology side of things too. Just real quickly, here's a view of one of the control panels here that I have, where I can basically script these shows much like I would script a PowerPoint and whatnot. And there's coding within each of this that controls what I do. So there is coding underneath that drives and flies me and takes and controls these objects. Each object is controllable and manipulable. In addition to that, I do have control panels here where I can do customized things and whatnot and pull up most any object I want at will And even I can create my own control panels depending on what I'm interested in doing and whatnot. So that's kind of how the system works in short. Each object has its own control panel with an orbit and labels and various graphics that can be overlaid, and all this stuff can be modified and creative. In fact, I share content with planetariums around the world, and we exchange digital files and whatnot. I can share with each other. Anyways, there's my quick little presentation, and thank you guys very much. I'm happy to take questions or show more or whatever you guys want.
If you have any questions and you don't want to speak up, or you can raise your hand under the reactions button. You can just type them into the chat window and I can read them out if you're shy.
Hey, Jason, this is Chris. Just real quick, I just got one question. First of all, that was beautiful. What a system you've got there. Quick question. Near the beginning, you said something. I'm kind of curious. You said that we have a secondary atmosphere. Can you explain what that means?
Yeah, sure, our atmosphere that we're living with is a secondary atmosphere. Was not the first atmosphere that formed when our planet first formed. That first atmosphere was blown. The sun was a lot more intense. There was a lot more activity within the solar system. We lost that atmosphere, so we've got a secondary atmosphere that surrounds us. If that makes any sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The secondary atmosphere was generated, the secondary atmosphere is generated by comet impacts and volcanism and things like that. And that primordial atmosphere, made of a lot of the lighter gases, was not held onto by the planets.
Okay.
So the reason we don't have hydrogen and helium is that it's light enough that we don't have enough gravity, and it just bye.
Gotcha.
In
Okay.
short, yeah,
Okay.
that's what we mean by secondary atmosphere. So the gas giant planets, they still have their primal atmospheres, if you will.
All right. Gotcha. Thank you.
Oh, no problem.
I have a question from our guest. She wants to know what's the most common method for moving dead satellites and space debris. And of course, I said, as they burn up, if they fall into the atmosphere, and what's left drops in the ocean. But the other answer is they just stay out there until they float away, if at all.
Yeah, I don't know what they do with the stuff. It is a problem though, right?
Yep.
I've read stuff that they're thinking of doing, of trying to capture this stuff and bring it back, but there's so much stuff out there. Yeah.
A major size Roomba.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes they fall to Earth. Sometimes they dangerously get close to the ISS, and sometimes they just stay away, but usually don't leave Earth's gravitational pull.
Yeah.
No, they don't. Okay.
And I think Richard Moser's answer was to Chris about the secondary atmosphere of the O2 event.
Right. Right. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions from anyone? If they either want to raise their hand in the reactions field.
Hey,
You're breaking up, Bill.
can you tell us a little bit about the planetarium and your schedule?
Say that again. Something schedule
I
planetarium.
heard, tell us about the planetarium and your schedule, I think. Is that correct, Bill?
Yes, please.
Yeah, can you kill the music, Jason?
Yeah, hold on a second. Okay.
That helps.
Yeah, so just as far as schedule goes, the planetarium schedule's up on our website, as far as what is available for the public, and right now it's all virtual. And when we do public shows, it's probably once a month on a Thursday evening when we do the shows. And for that, let me share with you. For the public shows, it's virtual now, but this is when we stop going virtual, what we usually do is some sort of sky talk or whatnot. And then the planetarium, a really huge library of full dome movies that we'll offer. And these are fully produced programs that last anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. And so we'll do a combination of just a quick star talk, and then we'll feature one of these presentations. And we even have IMAX films too that we've got formatted for the dome too.
And for everyone, I am just pasting their website into the chat.
But nothing's happening anytime soon. We're just being super cautious, and because we're a public school, my primary mission is to serve the schools, districts, and whatnot, and field trips. And then after that, we'll do a number of public shows. So we're not a museum per se, but we do offer a menu of them regularly throughout the year. So it is available for that.
Well, you do open up. I know at least one or two are interested in coming to seeing. Next question.
And I think it was like $5 a head or something like that we charged, and that just goes into our coffers to support the planetarium and whatnot. It's a nominal cost, and ticket sales are online, and it's pretty easy and straight up. That's the building from the outside there. So
next question I have from you comes from a member. Robin, what technology is employed in the projection process?
Yeah, sure. Let me see if I can show that to you too.
And do you know Sean Latch?
Yeah, not well, but I do. I do. Yeah. You guys know him?
I know him well.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Planetarium director at Imaloa when they opened and set up their place before he went to Norway to manage programs up there. And now he's up in Maine.
Yeah, he's a good guy. I met at conferences and whatnot. Is a good person. Absolutely. This is the technology here. This is Evans and Sutherland is a company. A lot of good people there. Let me hold on a second. So here we go. If you want to learn more about it, I don't have the latest update in software. It's 7, but it doesn't matter. And basically it's I don't know how to explain it. It's a control interface, digital, that controls a digital universe through a variety of ways, and is able to digitally present most anything you want. And it's got a lot of capability to create your own scenes, create your own graphical scenes and stuff like that digitally. Create your own shows, fully produced shows and whatnot. I do have a joystick and a game controller, so I can fly through the universe as I see fit. I can do that. So you can kind of play around here and kind of get an idea of what the technology is all about, and who the company is. It's a pretty impressive. In fact, I can even fly. I do programs on stuff on the Earth, the terrain and geographic features, and it's got a terrain database that's not too bad either. So I can fly over the Earth and explore the Grand Canyon and other features. It's almost like a Google Earth. So yeah, this is what it is. Evans and Sutherland is the company that does the technology. There you go.
You have any pictures of your actual physical mechanical setup?
No,
digital projectors.
It's wow. It's I don't know if they show it here on the website. Hold on a second. Let me see.
No, I meant yours.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to see. No, I don't. It's just it's two high-end projectors that canvas the dome. There's one in the back and one in the front, to create two hemispheres, to do the front and the back, and then they're blended together, and that's what it's 2K up on the dome. And that's what does it. There's no projector in the middle. There's no star ball. It's just not affordable as much as I might want one. They're $750,000 to have one, and whatnot. So there's two projectors. You'll see you'd see them as you come in, but they're recessed into the wall of the planetarium. It's a tilted dome too. The dome isn't flat. It's tilted
Mm.
12 degrees or something like that, 13 something degrees. It's tilted because everything is designed to come at you from a focal point. So,
Our latitude, right?
yeah.
I've, like I said, Sean gave us a tour at the back of Imaloa, and I found it fascinating being an equipment junkie, but it's a little smaller here.
Yeah, I mean, it is an advanced planetarium. There's no doubt. It's got everything's automated, and there's an equipment rack in the back that controls the audio and the sound. It's 7.1 surround sound. And then there's a rack, a nice server rack that controls the planetarium system. I'm talking to you from my production station, which does the same thing. And it is impressive, but it's not like it was back in the Jengers Planetarium days where there were 30 slide projectors, special effect projectors, all wired together, and what a nightmare.
It's come a long way from the old optical bulbs.
Yeah, it really has. Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, Jules. The other comments we're getting your praise and thank yous for the presentations.
My pleasure. I hope it was, wasn't planning to get technical. I hope you weren't looking for that, but I hope it was good. Glad you liked it.
No, this was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much.
A lot of information out there for us. I learned a lot. Thanks for really enjoyed the presentation, stuff like that.
Good. Okay.
Yep. John, Jillian had to sign off. I don't know if you saw that. It looks like she's gone already.
Said that to her as well.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Jason, I don't know if you want to hang around for the rest of the meeting. It's basically a business meeting from this point on.
I think it's
I am going to go
bedtime.
have dinner and get ready for tomorrow, but I thank you guys very much. And if there's anything else I can do for you, just send me an email, and there it is.
Great.
Looking forward to the day where you can collaborate again and do some work with the outside while you're inside, Jason.
No problem. I appreciate your support too.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thanks
Thank you,
guys.
Jason.
All right,
Do
Jason.
well.